Morning sun slants through the tall, arched windows of the courthouse, casting elongated shadows across the polished oak floors. The room is quiet, almost unnaturally so, yet the tension in the air is palpable, like a storm about to break. Robyn sits stiffly on the edge of her seat, clutching a folder of documents to her chest. Her fingers tremble slightly, though she fights to hide it. Across the room, Christine leans back in her chair, eyes narrowed, scanning every movement, every subtle expression of her sister wives. Janelle sits quietly, her lips pressed together, while Meri folds her hands tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. Each of them carries a mix of fear, anticipation, and anger, the weight of years of complicated relationships pressing down on them. Judge Thompson clears his throat, and the gavel falls with a sharp thunk, commanding the immediate attention of all present. We are here today to address allegations brought forth concerning financial mismanagement and concealed assets within the Brown family holdings, he announces. His firm voice has a measured quality, the weight of authority and the silent judgment of a man who has witnessed the unfolding of countless disputes under this very roof. The words remain suspended in the air, like a thick cloud that chokes on its insinuation. Kody Brown fidgets in his chair, his armpits growing moist as beads of sweat start to form on his forehead. He looks toward Robyn, whose intense stare locks on his, a mix of hurt and steely determination. He barely holds her gaze for a second before looking away, careful that even that much might reveal the guilt and anxiety he desperately attempts to conceal. Christine lowers her body, her beady eyes glinting with suspicion and frustration. "Routine adjustments, Kody," she mutters under her breath, the venom on her voice hardly contained. "Routine? This is our family's life you're gambling with." The prosecution starts unfolding its evidence with millimeter precision. Papers on the desk, like the pieces of a puzzle to disclose a betrayal. Every page is packed with numbers, dates, and transfers that at first glance could seem ordinary, but put together show a picture of conscious concealment. "Mr. Brown," the attorney says in a clipped, formal tone, "these records indicate large withdrawals and transfers that were not disclosed to your co-wives. Can you explain these actions?" Kody clears his throat in an effort to steady his voice. I thought these were routine adjustments," he manages to say, but the quaver in his voice betrays him. Christine narrows her eyes even further. The tight press of her lips is the only barrier keeping her anger from boiling over. "Routine?" she spits out louder this time, her voice a hot knife through court. "You call this routine? You've put everything at risk." Robyn rises slowly, her hands shaking as she places the folder on the desk in front of her. Her voice, though trembling slightly, carries an authority that cannot be ignored. "It wasn't just about money," she says, every word deliberate. "It was about trust, and Kody, you broke it." The courtroom falls silent for a moment, the weight of her words settling over everyone like a thick fog. Even the judge leans forward slightly, sensing the emotional gravity in her statement. Janelle leans in, whispering quietly under her breath, barely audible. "I always knew something was off." Meri, generally composed and reserved, fidgets with her hands in her lap, visibly struggling to maintain her composure. The prosecution calls their next witness, a financial analyst, a professional who has spent weeks reviewing the family's records. As the analyst begins to show a pattern of discrepancies, the tension rises with every word. The numbers on the page begin to take on a new life, each transaction now a thread unraveling the intricate web of secrets Kody has tried so hard to conceal. The voice of the analyst is measured, even, and deliberate, yet somehow, with each line, it underscores a seriousness that reverberates fully inside the courtroom. There are several transactions where funds were diverted without indication to the other family members. he says. Some transfers were made to accounts solely in the name of Mr. Brown, and they do not have any documented purpose. Every sentence seems to strike another nail into the trust that at one point sewed together this family. Kody shifts uncomfortably, his palms beginning to sweat. He clears his throat again, attempting to formulate a response, but the words fail him. Christine leans forward, her voice sharp with barely contained rage. "We gave you everything," she says. Private. Her hands trembling slightly. "And you hid all of this from us? From me?" "From us?" Robyn takes a deep breath, her eyes fixed on Kody. "This isn't about money anymore," she says softly, but with each word laced with emotion. "It's about betrayal. About the lies we've been forced to live with, the secrets that could destroy us all." The courtroom is hushed, all eyes on Kody, who suddenly works at holding on to the composure, which had seemed so effortless just minutes before. The day wears on. Witness after witness is called, each adding a layer of tension, a new piece of the puzzle that reveals a pattern of deception. The wives exchange glances, wordless communication passing between them, their faces speaking volumes: shock, disbelief, anger, sorrow, all communicated through subtle shifts in posture, the glint of an eye, or the bite of a lip. The prosecution builds a careful case, with every revelation making the air heavier, full of weight and almost suffocating. Hours go by. The camera pans across the wives' faces, capturing the flicker of every emotion, the tightening of a jaw, the narrowing of eyes, the slight tremble of a hand. Even the usually composed and detached jury appears drawn into the electric atmosphere of tension. Small cracks begin to appear in Kody's composure. Sweat forms along his hairline, his fingers drum nervously against the table, and his voice occasionally falters under the increasing load of proof against him. The doors to the courtroom burst open, and all eyes are drawn to them. The last witness of the day steps forward, an older accountant for the family. The tension in the air is palpable. The witness brings in a thick binder, slowly sets it on the desk, and opens it with deliberation. "What I'm about to reveal," the accountant begins in a firm voice, "is information that has not been disclosed to the co-wives, and may fundamentally change the understanding of the financial management within this family." Robyn leans forward slightly, her eyes wide with the sense that something important is taking place. Christine straightens her seat, hands clenching onto the edge of the desk. Janelle and Meri turn a sideways glance toward him, equal parts dread and curiosity. Kody shifts uncomfortably, knowing full well this testimony could tip the scales entirely against him. The witness starts to reveal information, an account that was hidden from the other wives, transfers that totally contradicted Kody's previous explanations, and a pattern of behavior that hints at deliberate concealment. With each revelation, there are loud gasps, the quick exchanges of furtive glances, and the odd clenching of a fist. The courtroom shrinks as every eye darts to the pages, to the words, to the implications of what is being revealed. As the session draws to a close, the atmosphere remains charged in anticipation. The wives rise, gathering belongings slowly, lost, each in their own thoughts. Even the judge seems contemplative, the weight of today's revelations settling into the air like a dense fog. Outside the courtroom, whispers ripple through hallways, questions, speculation, and judgment mingling in quiet corridors. The day's last shot remains on Kody, his hands clasping the edge of the desk, downcast. The first day of this salacious courtroom drama has come to an end, but this storm is just getting started. The camera pans out and leaves the audience with a burning question. How will this family survive when every secret, every betrayal, and every lie has been laid bare for all to see? The next day, the courthouse is abuzz with the hum of anticipation. The atmosphere is one of almost palpable electricity, the leftovers of the proceedings of the day before. Kody is the first to arrive, his hands shaking slightly as he smooths his tie, He looks around nervously at the murmurs of the journalists and onlookers that have assembled outside the entrance to the courtroom. Eventually, the others arrive with a combination of apprehension and resolve. They understand that the stakes are higher than they have ever been before. This is something that has nothing to do with mere finances. It's trust and secrets that have been held for years. The court gradually fills, the murmur of voices dwindling as the sound of the gavel rings out with an authoritative thud. Judge Thompson surveys the sea of upturned faces, his face inscrutable, his eyes alert. The trial will continue with the introduction of crucial evidence. He says, "All counsels are reminded to behave." The accountant of the previous day appears once again, the big binder open before them. "Yesterday, we talked about the financial irregularities that were discovered," starts the witness. "Today I shall show you the evidence that ties Mr. Brown to certain money transfers, withdrawals, and financial dealings that were deliberately hidden from the rest of the co-wives." Kody adjusts his position in his chair, a drop of sweat sliding down his temple. His effort to remain calm is annihilated by the testimony being given before him. Robyn's eyes are slits, her gaze fixed and unblinking. Her hands grasp the edge of the desk, her knuckles turned bone white. Christine leans forward, her voice hissing softly, because she is speaking with her voice turned to a murmur. "We've been blind this entire time. How could he?" The witness turns to a document marked with reminders scribbled in red ink. "This transfer, as you see by the amount, was done without the knowledge of the co-wives. It was routed to an account that was under the sole management of Mr. Brown, and the explanation was not recorded." There's a whispered stir from the courtroom. The prosecution builds the case brick by brick, very deliberately. Kody swallows hard, and the effort to articulate what happened causes him to struggle for the right explanation. "I thought it was necessary for—" Christine interrupts, her voice cold and frosty. "Necessary? Kody, does this look necessary to you? Does this kind of lying to us look necessary?" She's shaking, her fists clenched, but her voice doesn't waver. Robyn stands up, her eyes filled with tears, her gaze riveted on Kody. "It's not just the money," she says, her voice trembling. "It's the line, the betrayal." The next witness is someone who has worked for the family, someone the family has come to rely on to take the calls, manage the messages, and cover the transactions and spending. The information this witness has to share has never seen the light of day, and Kody had hoped none of it would. The information that trickles into the courtroom fuels the sense of betrayal. The looks the wives give Kody don't need to be interpreted. They tell all of what the women are feeling: shock, confusion, pain, and anger building. "We trusted you, all of us, and this is what you have done?" Christine yells, rising from the floor with fury burning in her eyes, as Kody struggles with the urge to maintain his composure, but with shaking hands nonetheless. Robyn reaches out with a gentle hand upon Christine's arm, both women struggling with the grief they each feel inside, as Robyn attempts to calm an understandably exasperated Christine with an whisper of, "Christine, breathe." The witness presses on, telling a story of money management in specific patterns, teasing a web of intentional deception. Money transferred, hush money, inconsistencies in earnings, all recorded with meticulous care. Each word is a sledgehammer blow, striking the very roots of a bond of trust which once held the family together. Janelle is biting her lip, trying not to cry, as Meri's fists work in her lap, showing the tension behind her calm facade. Even Judge Cunningham is leaning forward, his eyes narrowing as he studies the papers before him, the gravity of these revelations radiating from his furrowed brow. Kody shifts, realizing that with every passing second, he is losing ground. "It's not about money, Kody," she says firmly. It's about trust, loyalty, and respect. You promised to honor us, to protect us, and now, all of that is in question. Her voice rings out in the courtroom in stark contrast to the antiseptic feel of legal testimony. The final witness of the morning is called to testify. He has been working as a tax consultant for months and has examined all transactions personally. He outlines various transactions that have never before come to light and are all directly related to Kody's directives. The courtroom is hushed in response to this new revelation. All of the wives look at each other in shock and fright. How could he do this to us? Christine whispers to herself, fighting to keep her hands from shaking while holding onto the table edge. Robyn's eyes are fixed on Kody. We gave you everything and you kept this from us, she says, each word dripping with the weight of the shattered trust that has built up over the years. Janelle shakes her head, and Meri purses her lips together, frustration etched across them from the thought that she is not about to let go of this. The courtroom is electric, every syllable, every look, every nuanced gesture taking on enormous significance. Kody finds himself struggling to say something, anything, but the evidence and the testimony have left him no choice. His excuses begin to fall apart, and his words falter as he struggles to come up with an explanation that no longer has traction. His efforts meet equal parts incredulity and outrage from the wives. The day continues with oscillating questions, each one adding to the emotional resonance. Christine presses on firmly, asking pointed questions. Robyn answers authoritatively. Janelle and Meri share their thoughts, voicing a combination of sadness, rage, and defiance. Each one provides a dimension to the intricate mesh of deceit and trust, piece by piece, laying bare the family dynamics for the viewers. As the day progresses, a shock for a finale is revealed. The accountant brings out a batch of documents that had not been revealed so far. These documents provide evidence of transactions that had taken place in accounts that had been maintained in secrecy by not a single member of the family. The courtroom holds its breath. The judge himself leans forward, his eyes squinting in understanding. His hands are shaking as he reaches for the papers, trying to explain, but the words won't come. Robyn and Christine look at each other. A silent communication passing between them. Janelle is biting her lip, while Meri is looking directly at him with a mixture of pain and determination. Every witness, bit of evidence, and emotional exchange propels the story along, keeping the viewer engaged. As the day comes to a close, the wives stand up from their seats, each of them deep in her own thoughts. But the tension in the room can almost be palpable. It clings to everyone in the courtroom in a way that defies release. It takes time for everyone to leave the courtroom, but the after effect of such revealing statements lingers in the air. Outside, the murmur of the press hangs in the air. A light of morning creeps through the courthouse in narrow beams of gold, but it does little to ease the heavy mood that settles over each of them. The aftermath of the past days hangs in the air, a physical force that presses down upon each of them, the wives and Kody included. The three of them move through the doors of the courtroom, every footstep carrying a heavier burden than one preceding it, a sense of eager expectation that hangs in the air. Robyn enters first, face set but etched with tension. Every look at Kody holds a question, a rage that simmers deep within, a hunger for answers that have been denied for so long. Christine walks in just behind, jaw clenched and eyes blazing with a mixture of rage and terror. There is a tentative quality in Janelle's movement that is as if she walks on a tightrope, every footstep that carries her forward a potential revelation, and Meri glides in softly, expression serene, but eyes sparkling like rain clouds on a summer sky. The courtroom is filling up, and everyone's murmurs are fading to black, with the ring of the gavel's thunk. Judge Thompson's eyes wander around the room before settling on Kody and then the wives, as if measuring the weight of what is to come. Today, he begins, his voice calm but demanding. We will begin with testimony and evidence that is central to understanding the full scope of this case. The first witnesses for the day are called: a former family assistant who has been involved with the Browns for several years. Their behavior is calm but firm, their eyes scanning the room as they prepare to relate the events that have been taking place off camera. During the time I have been with the Browns, they begin, choosing their words carefully, I have discovered several instances in which Mr. Brown engaged in behavior that ensured that information was kept from the other wives. Robyn leans forward slightly, hands clasped in front of her, as her knuckles turn white with tension. Christine chews at her lip, trying not to let the flood of feelings bubble up inside her get the better of her. Janelle shifts uncomfortably in her seat, looking at Meri, who is sitting silently, but with an intensity that makes it clear she is taking it all in. Kody squirms uncomfortably in his chair, aware that the house of testimony is building against him. The witness begins showing the communication between Kody and financial advisors that have all the detail of transactions that have occurred without the consent of the rest. This sets a picture that has been going on in the courtroom. This shows that the other wife's trust has been compromised by the reckless or deceitful behavior of the one who promised the least. Christine's voice rises as she questions the other wife. How can one think that such a thing can be done, and it's acceptable to the others who have shown them the greatest amount of trust? Robyn's face is stiff as she tries to calm Christine down. And another thing, says the witness. There are all these hidden meetings and transactions that Kody has done on his own without involving his wives. Every word from the witness is like a hammer, striking the foundation that was once firmly planted to protect trust. Janelle's hands shake slightly as she holds onto her file. Meri's eyes are narrowing, and now there's no mistaking the storm that brews within them. A combination of pain, confusion, and brewing anger. I did it for the family's sake. He tries to explain, his words slurred together in an attempt to justify his actions. It comes out in stutter starts, but he knows it. It doesn't matter. You call that protecting us? By lying? By deceiving? By betraying everything we had in trust with you? Christine shakes her head at him. It isn't an argument he can fight. You had the chance to do what was right. Do what was right for us. But instead, Robyn has had enough. We weren't just looking for money. We were looking for trust. We needed honesty. We needed to feel like we have a family. But, Kody, you have been terrible at all three of those. The drama continues as Christine comes forward, her finger pointed straight at Kody. Do you even realize what you have done? What you have taken from all of us? The room is thick, every breath thick with the reality of what has happened and what is now being revealed. I can't believe this. How it has come to this, whispers Janelle. Her words are almost overpowered by the drama, but the passion pours from her words. We've known what you've been doing for all these years, proclaims Meri, her jaw clenched and her eyes narrowed. And now, it has come to this. The courtroom holds its breath for a brief moment, the anticipation thick in the air. Kody swallows hard, the weight of the evidence and the accusations bearing down on him. The wives look at each other, each silently evaluating the others, sizing them up for the battle of nerves they will have to face for what has so long been kept under wraps. The next witness is summoned, a financial analyst who has carefully gone through all transactions. The tone of voice is calm, almost clinical, but far from being impartial. The data suggest that there was deliberate concealment of assets, as well as poor management, says the financial analyst. The accounts were opened without informing. There were transfers of funds without proper authorization from co-wives, while some messages were deleted or not sent in order not to attract attention, continues the expert. Robyn leans forward, her fists clenched tightly. "Why didn't you tell us, Kody?" she asks, her voice shaking with hurt. Christine's shoulders tremble ever so slightly, and tears of anger and shock glisten in her eyes. Janelle's face is pale, and she presses her hands firmly into her lap to hold herself together. Meri is silent, her gaze intent, though the storm brews just beneath the surface, and it shall not be denied. The analyst presses on, displaying evidence that has been kept from the wives. A series of documents that display transactions and financials that none of them have ever known existed. It all mounts to greater and greater effect, and the emotional impact increases along with it. But Kody attempts to speak up, to say something to justify himself, though the words refused to come to him. The wives' emotions run raw: anger, hurt, shock, and the more subtle, simmering anger that has built from all the secrets kept. Suddenly, the doors of the court are flung open, and the final witness of the day is called, a former family advisor who has insider information of Kody's communication patterns and finance moves. The testimony reveals the worst fears of the wives. Kody has been operating on his own for years, making finance moves and personal decisions without the consultation of the women who shared their lives with him. The emotional build can almost not be borne. The anger and pain in Christine's voice shake her words as she declares, "We gave you everything, Kody, and you lied to us." The shaking in Robyn's hands as she holds her folder loose suggests nervousness, though her eyes remain unyieldingly fixed. Janelle holds back tears, while Meri's anger and incomprehension burn in her eyes. As the witness finishes testifying, Kody presses back in his seat, his hands clasped on the edge of the table, beads of sweat on his forehead. The judge's room is like a pressure cooker, where every moment is exaggerated by the silence between witnesses. The wives exit the court, each face inscrutable, though their minds work overtime. The turmoil is far from complete, and the viewers can't help experiencing some kind of anticipation regarding what will follow in the next court hearing. The courtroom is oppressive as the doors swing open for the fourth day of trial. The women come in before the men, their faces set with determination, but with tension that is hard to conceal. Robyn enters with measured tread, her eyes surveying the room with a spark that comes from determination. Christine trails behind her, her jaw clenched, her nostrils flared with memories of deception that she fights to control. Janelle comes with caution, her hands playing with a folded file, while Meri's calm facade hides turmoil in her eyes. Kody Brown appears next, shifting nervously as he takes his position at the defense table. Every action he takes is labored, as if the weight of this increasing evidence is bearing down on him. The air in the courtroom appears electric, almost living, with the energy emanating from every witness, every lawyer, and every member of this family in attendance. Judge Thompson clears his throat and raps the gavel loudly. "Let us proceed," he says, "since today we deal in witness statements and evidence which could well shift the trajectory of this case." The first witness is called, a former financial advisor who knows the accounts well. They look about the room before fixing on Kody. "In my examination," they begin calmly, "I found accounts and transactions which were made specifically to keep the co-wives unaware of them. These were not mistakes. These transactions were made to circumvent their oversight." 4. Kody moves, the sweat beating down his temple, his fists clenched as he holds on to the edge of the table. Robyn leans forward, her face set with a mixture of rage and shock. Christine's eyes blaze with a combination of both, as Janelle and Meri share a look that speaks louder than words. Each piece of information only builds the tension of the courtroom, a palpable thing, it seems almost too much to bear. And finally, the witness announces, pulling out papers that speak of encrypted funds transfers, secret communications that have occurred without the consent or knowledge of all four of the sister wives. Each blow from the witness's words strikes like a sledgehammer, attacking the very foundation that the whole family once built. Robyn's fingers are shaking as she clenches her folder, her eyes locked intently on Kody, who is struggling to meet them. Christine's mouth has narrowed into a pinpoint dot as she crosses her legs tightly. Janelle's fingers are clenched tightly together as Meri's face sets into a mask that once seemed serene, but no longer. The district attorney insists that the next witness be produced, a longtime assistant of Kody, who has inside information about his actions. The revelations involve personal emails, unsent messages, and hidden instructions, all of which illustrate a long-established modus operandi. Every new observation is like a body blow, shaking what is left of his credibility. Kody takes a hard swallow, trying to make sense of what is getting increasingly difficult. Christine's voice breaks as she stands up, her voice laced with pointed accusation. "How could you keep this from us? From us all?" Her hands shake with emotion as she points at him. Robyn stands up slowly, her eyes blazing with an unswerving commitment. "It's not just about the money," she begins, her voice shaking with passion. "It's about trust, and you broke that." A pause settles in the courtroom, and the weight of what she has said lingers in the air, like a storm congested in the atmosphere, and ready to burst. The courtroom doors burst open, and the last witness of the day enters the courtroom. It is an old friend and advisor with connections to confidential recordings. The witness sets a small device on the table and presses play. Seconds later, the courtroom is thick with the tense silence of Kody's recorded voice, replayed from months prior, and referring to the very action he'd claimed wasn't true in the courtroom. The recording speaks of admissions in contravention of what he had said in the courtroom, and in an attempt to deliberately keep the information from the wives. "AP," gasps echo in the courtroom. Robyn's hand goes to her mouth as she stares in shocked wonder. Christine's face goes white as she opens her mouth in astonishment. Janelle slumps her shoulders and fixes Meri with a narrowed gaze as her intensity mounts like thunder. Kody's hands are shaking as he leans forward in realization of the extent of the evidence that has been revealed. The judge leans forward slightly, his face set in a serious expression. "Mr. Brown," he says, his tone deliberated, "this tape has considerably altered our understanding of your previous testimony. How does this conflict explain itself?" Kody Brown opens his mouth, but his words are thwarted as he tries to explain by the unassailable evidence. Scene 4-5. The drama in the courtroom is almost heart-wrenching by now. Every action, every breath, has taken on a life of its own. Tears are streaming down the facade of Robyn's eyes as she tries to reconcile the Kody she loves with the man who emerges beneath the sunlight of discovery. Christine's hands are trembling, her voice quavering as she says, "I just can't believe this. How could he?" Janelle holds back a cry by biting her lip, while Meri, so calm, so serene, finally shows a glimmer of emotion as a single tear slips past her lips, her jaws clenching with anger and sadness. The prosecution brings a new witness, a tax expert who has examined all financial dealings and communications, and the evidence is damning, revealing a legacy of deception and cover-up across several years. Every piece of evidence strikes to perfection, destroying any potential defense Kody might have erected. The first witness to take the stand is Kody, who has to face the second wife, Christine, accusingly as she asks, "Can you explain to me, Kody, why you lied to me, why you cheated?" The first word out of Kody Brown's mouth is a denial. Christine inches closer, her finger extended, her accusation directed at Kody. Do you even realize the severity of the betrayal? All the lies, all the secrets. There's more to it all than we can handle. The drama of her words clang through the courtroom, the full force of the pain evident to all the people gathered there. Janelle shakes her head, her silence laced with the breakage of her spirit, the intensity of Meri's glare slicing through the air. Kody's defensive efforts fall apart even further as witnesses provide more evidence in the form of emails, financial records, and letters that prove this secrecy has been going on for years. The reaction from the wives was visceral, with emotions portraying a spectrum of pain, anger, shock, and relief all at once. Everything pulls at the loose ends of this family, exposing secrets of betrayal that none could have ever anticipated. You've kept everything from us. For all these years, you've been deceiving us. How could you do it? Her words are laced with pain and betrayal. It is evident that she has taken a great leap in understanding the situation. A murmur arises in the courtroom. This time, it isn't emotional, but out of curiosity. Everyone wants to learn more about what has transpired between Robyn and Kody. But before it can settle, the accountant stands up once again, with another piece of evidence in hand. This time, he presents documents which none of the wives had known existed, or which had been known to Kody. Every piece of evidence in those documents leads to an unknown account. The courtroom gasps in unison. Even the judge leans forward in surprise. Every spectator in the court feels the electrifying drama. At last, Kody realizes the extent to which he had been deceiving everyone in the courtroom for years. The wives look at each other, each absorbing the reality that has been uncovered. Robyn's hands shake, but her eyes are piercing and direct. Christine's shoulders slump very slightly under the weight of the deception that hits home. Janelle shakes her head and presses her lips together tightly, while Meri's eyes sparkle with hurt and anger and defiance. The courtroom seems to be on the verge of exploding into pieces under the enormous weight of it all. As the session is slowly brought to a close, the final phrases linger with aching weight. The gavel clangs down, but the force of the revelations presses onward, unresolved. The buzz of talk fills the corridors, with rumors beginning to circulate throughout the courtroom. The courtroom also is somber, held with bated breath until the next session that will take the pressure to the absolute limit. The fifth day breaks gray and murky, the sky above the courthouse echoing the turmoil of feelings within. The courtroom is electric with tension, almost as if it has a life of its own, pressing down on the assembled throng. Robyn comes in first, her steps measured, her features set but etched with a deep-seated passion. Then comes Christine with her square shoulders, but her heavy-lidded eyes, speaking of the weariness of sorrow and rage. Janelle follows, as if each step carries her further into a revelation, while Meri floats in with a seeming serenity that hides a deep-seated fire. Kody Brown brings up the rear, looking tense as he adjusts his tie, as if the weight of the testimony of the past 4 days has become too much to bear. Judge Thompson clears his throat and bangs his gavel down hard. We shall now move on to the final presentations and testimony, he states firmly. What transpires today in this courtroom will affect the outcome of this case and could have ripple effects that are long-lived on all parties involved. The words settle in the air between them, like lead. The trial begins with a look back at the most incriminating evidence that has come out in the past days of the trial. Hidden accounts, secret transactions, emails, and the incriminating audio recording that defied the defendant's earlier claim, the narrative describes. The prosecution introduces a new witness, a former financial auditor with in-depth knowledge of the family finances. The speaker's voice is objective and unemotional, but the specifics of the claims they make most certainly are not. The analysis shows there is purposeful concealment and mismanagement, the auditor begins. Some of the accounts were opened and operated in a way that wasn't disclosed, with large withdrawals made to undisclosed destinations, all of which pointed to a scheme to deliberately withhold information from the co-wives of the defendant. End quote. The defense attorney continues with his testimony, speaking loudly and clearly about secret meetings and secret finances and secret conversations that Kody Brown kept from all four wives. His words paint a picture that is difficult to reconcile with any goodwill and loving spirit that was present in this family. Kody Brown's faces turn white with effort to come up with a plausible defense for his despicable behavior. Mr. Brown, states the attorney, loudly and with precision, there is nothing but incompetence and negligence in your assessment. There is nothing but willful concealment. Robyn finally gathers the strength to stand up and confront Kody. Her words are powerful but laced with restraint to hold back her tears. All these years we trusted you. Every decision we made, every sacrifice, every plan, it was built on the foundation of trust. And you shattered it. Tears glint in her eyes, but she looks unwavering at Kody. You took everything, our trust, our loyalty, our love, and you lied to us. Her anger and pain are so apparent as she raises her voice. The courtroom listens as she continues, her hands shaking fiercely, but she does not waver in tone. Janelle tries to control herself, biting back and holding back tears, but Meri finally breaks her silence, speaking in an icy tone. Deception doesn't just harm one person, but it affects many, contaminating everything, and we all suffer because of it. Kody tries to speak, his words shaking as he says, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I thought I was protecting my family. He nervously glances at each of the women, each one pointing at him through their accusing faces. Protect your family? How? By lying to all of us? How? By making choices that could ruin all of us. Robyn's eyes are blazing as she cries, her voice shaking. The prosecution offers the final evidence available, a journal of accounts, along with text messages that indicate a deliberately deceptive movement of finances by Kody that he had not discussed with his other wives. The courtroom breathes a sigh of relief together, but also suffers underneath the revelation that has been made. Christine raises a trembling hand up to her face. Janelle is clutching her folder in a manner that turns her knuckles white. Meri is sitting calmly, but there is a hardness in her eyes. The judge leans forward, his face stern, his eyes fixed on Kody, as he says, Mr. Brown, in light of this incontrovertible evidence, how do you plea with regard to these charges of non-disclosure and mismanagement? Kody's voice breaks as he says, I mean, I couldn't deny the evidence, but I didn't mean any harm. His words are empty, heavy with the weight of irrefutable proof before him. Robyn's eyes shine with tears, but her voice remains firm as she utters her parting words. Intent doesn't repair the hurt, Kody. It doesn't reverse the betrayal, the nights of sleeping less, the uncertainty and the fear we've suffered. Christine nods and moves to the front of the room. Each and every secret, lie, and hidden financial transfer has affected individuals in the end. None of them can be reversed or erased. The courtroom holds its collective breath as the judge ponders all the evidence, taking his time to respond to the family. His tone remains carefully considered, weighed and loaded with meaning. In this case, the jury has come to see the broad and complicated degrees of choice, secrecy, and deception. The judge continues. The impact of the family in general cannot and should not and will not be disregarded. The jury also understands the pain of betrayal and the efforts by Mr. Brown to rationalize his own behavior. Kody drops his eyes, letting the shame sink into him. His shoulders slump beneath the burden of condemnation. The rest of the family is riveted, relief etched on their faces, along with sadness and a certain hoping against hope. The judge goes on, speaking of what is to be done, of restitution and rebuilding family accountability. His voice is absolute, unarguable, and full of emotion. The wives get up, each one individually, with a combination of fatigue and determination etched on their faces. Robyn looks back at Kody for the last time, her eyes pleading for an account. Christy walks slowly, her heart racing with memories of pain and deception. Janelle takes tentative steps, determined ones, while Meri's calm demeanor hides the turmoil churning inside her. Kody sits there, the weight of the judgment weighing heavy on him like an iron curtain. Outside, people buzz in hushed tones, speculating. Journalists furiously write in notebooks, while bystanders whisper in rapt attention, enthralled by the drama witnessed in court. The women hug each other in brief, speaking in hushed words, their looks brimming with solidarity, understanding, and pain. There are no triumphs here, only the silence of having fought a battle, had secrets out, and thus begun the process of healing. Finally, Robyn speaks, her tone low but resolute. We have lived through this storm. However, to survive does not diminish the hurt, but instead teaches us the truths regarding the individuals we trusted, as well as the decisions we need to make in the future. Christine readily agrees, tears streaming down her face, as she whispers, "We asked for the truth, and now we finally have it." Janelle and Meri share a knowing glance, the common bond having been cemented through shared experience and understanding gained. While the family is leaving, the camera stays fixed on Kody, alone in the empty courtroom. Kody's look is a mixture of regret, guilt, and reflection. The seriousness of the revelations, the fight, and the outcome is etched across his face. A harsh reminder that there are indeed consequences for one's deeds, and once trust is broken, repair work is not easy.